Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is One Punch Man, Season 1, Episode 7, The Ultimate Disciple. The episode in a nutshell is just a brief reminder of what happened within this episode. So the episode begins with Saitama and Genos lounging around at home when Genos receives a call from the Hero Association and is called into the Z City headquarters. When he arrives there, it's completely empty except for Bang, who is another S-Class hero, who informs him essentially that all the S-Classes were called, however, none of the others answered except them two, and that there is a meteor heading for City Z that will wipe it out and likely cause damage to the surrounding cities, and the S-Classes were called to see if there was anything that they could do, but again, nobody else responded. Genos then leaves the headquarters and heads to where he can see the meteor. Beaufoy, also known as Metal Knight, arrives, but it's an unmanned drone that's not risking its life, and he refuses to team up or help. He just wants to test some new weapons and thinks the meteor would be a good target, and he shoots some missiles, which delays Genos' attack. Then Genos attacks it with his new, upgraded, and improved prototype arms that he had attached on the way from a suitcase. And he then, flame throws at it, but it doesn't really do anything. However, once he's basically used up all of his power and is fainting, Saitama asks Bang, who's been observing, to watch over Genos, and then he basically destroys the meteor. However, in destroying the meteor, he breaks it into a bunch of smaller pieces, which then rain down and do cause damage to the city. However, in comparison to the damage that the full meteor would have done, which was wipe out an entire city plus cause damage to surrounding areas, the damage that is done by these fragments are relatively minor, and there are no casualties, meaning no one lost their life, so ultimately a far better outcome. However, it is then revealed that not everybody in the city thinks that way, and a lot of people are upset by the damage that was done by the fragments and are blaming Saitama. And so when he goes out to do some hero work, because he still needs to do a certain amount each week, he's basically surrounded by a mob provoked by Tank Top Tiger, who's after some revenge, and Tank Top Tiger's older brother, Tank Top Black Hole, who are essentially provoke the crowd into disparaging Saitama as having destroyed everything. Then Tank Top Tiger and Tank Top Black Hole think that they can take on Saitama. They fail utterly, but he goes really light on them because, they're still alive. And then basically he turns to the crowd and says, you know what, I don't do this hero thing for you to like me. I do it because I want to. And then Genos arrives and basically stops him from putting his foot in it because he seemed to be ready to tear everybody a new one, and says that they should go home. So he and Saitama then head home. And the post-credit scene that we get is the creatures from the sea coming out of the water while talking about the rumors of a C-rank hunter stealing credit for defeating a meteor. That then brings us to our rankings, which on this channel we have two. We have a mostly objective ranking, which uses set values to determine the score, and then the personal ranking, which is based on opinion and entertainment value. So our mostly objective rank values. First, we have our supporting character introductions, a multi-episode supporting character introductions, I should say, and that's Tank Top Black Hole and Beaufoy, the Metal Knight, who is one of the S-Class heroes, but not one that's really memorable. And that brings us to 4. Then we have our multi-season supporting character introduction, which is Bang, who does gain memorability because he is there quite frequently. And that brings us to 7. And then we have our multi-season main character growth worth 4 points, which of course is Genos getting his new arms and testing out the prototype arms, which he carries around in a suitcase, and then it kind of attaches over his existing arms and are meant to be way more powerful. Powerful enough, he thought, to destroy the meteor, though ultimately it does not do so. And then we do have a negative in this one, which is -2 for negative messaging or behavior. And this is basically the jealous rumor mongering that Tank Top Black Hole does. He basically calls Saitama a liar that he wasn't the one who destroyed the meteor. But like the Hero Association keeps track of these things. If any of the S classes had said he wasn't, he wouldn't have got the credit. So it's kind of stupid of them in the first place to say he's lying about it or that it was just his word, because obviously the association wouldn't go just on his word. He's a C class. Number 1. And number 2, he then tries to turn all of the people around against Saitama, and they do turn against him because their property was damaged, but it's like, you're alive. You would not have been alive had he not broken the meteor. Like, take the small win that you have, that you are alive and can rebuild and rebuy your stuff, and you're not dead, but they don't do that. So they're very ungrateful about it. They're rumor mongering that he's actually a bad guy. And of course, with the other heroes, they're jealous in the C ranks that he's jumped in rankings all the way up to rank 5, when really he should always have been in a far higher rank than rank C based on his physical abilities alone. So, not to be heated about it, but very much against these heroes, and very much agree that Saitama deserves better. And this is just negative messaging and behavior, just like rudeness. Really, it just boils down to rudeness. And if this was Hannibal, the TV show, well, that rudeness would have consequences. Unfortunately, in this show, it is a child. Well, I'd say maybe more like teenage, but it is a young person targeted series, and so there aren't really consequences to any of the people who are being rude. Tank Top Black Hole and Tank Top Tiger get defeated, but minorly. Anyways, this is the objective rank values, and it is a 9 out of 10 objectively. Which then brings our season rankings so far. On our mostly objective ranking, to in first, the strongest man, the lone cyborg, the modern ninja, the ultimate master, the terrifying city. This episode comes in 6th, the ultimate disciple, and then in 7 we have the obsessive scientist. Bringing us to my personal ranking. Now, I did like the first part of the episode. I like Bang as a character. I think he's a memorable character, and he does show up fairly frequently, and has always been friendly towards Genos and more importantly Saitama, so I don't have any problems with that character. I'm happy to see that he is now being introduced. So that was a good point. The meteor, I didn't really care about the Metal Knight. Genos was doomed to fail because of his role in the series as basically the failure that allows Saitama's strength to shine. So he was going to fail all the time anyways, but it is still, they make his powers look really cool to kind of make up for the fact that he's always losing, and it is true that in comparison to most, his power is pretty impressive, but in comparison to Saitama, not so much. And then when Saitama breaks the meteor, I think the effect was really epic as well. You know, he breaks the roof as he launches off of it, and then he punches straight through the meteor, which then turns this bright, beautiful blue, and you see almost like a firework, all the little pieces go down, and then they rain down in a bunch of little mini explosions. It's epic. But what I didn't like was the second half. I couldn't keep my passion out of it on the mostly objective rank value, and I'm not going to repeat myself again, other than to say that I think that kind of behavior was absolutely deplorable, how everybody jumped on, not a single person stood up and went like, hey, but at least we're alive. At least we weren't completely wiped out and off the map. At least it's just minor property damage that we can rebuild or rebuy. It's not our lives that were lost. Not a single person had the perspective to be able to make that distinction. And then Tank Top Black Hole and Tank Top Tiger are supposedly heroes, but then they're engaging in this kind of terrible, poor behavior out of jealousy over the rankings. And ultimately, it's just disgusting behavior and it left me angry. But that being said, I do think that for what it's worth, Saitama didn't kill them. So, he rose above, he was the bigger person. And had they not attacked him, I doubt he would have attacked them. It was self-defense on his part. And then he rightfully scolds the people around and basically says, you're not the reason I'm doing this. I'm doing it for me because I want to, because being a hero is a calling for me, essentially. And basically tells them all to shut up. And then goes on his way home with Genos when he arrives, still kind of upset, like angry. But ultimately, they didn't negatively affect him. He didn't let it negatively impact him or impact his desire to be a hero or do his job, and for that deserves recognition. So having said that, I felt like ultimately this is the most negative episode so far, but it still was kind of epic too, and therefore I balanced it out to a 5 out of 10 ranking, which brings our personal ranking so far for the season to the Ultimate Master, the Obsessive Scientist, the Strongest Man, the Lone Cyborg, the Terrifying City, the Modern Ninja, and then this episode is in 7th, the Ultimate Disciple. Bringing us now to our series ranking so far, and on the mostly objective ranking, we currently have a score of 67 out of 120, and then on the personal ranking for Season 1, it is at 52 out of 120. So with that, we've now rewatched and ranked One Punch Man, Season 1, Episode 7, The Ultimate Disciple. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.